Imagine waking up and your business is literally underwater. In Savannah, Georgia, this can happen very quickly. In fact, recently it did to many business owners during Tropical Storm Debbie. And having the right flood insurance coverage can be the difference between closing your business and not reopening it. Look, the majority of businesses who suffer a flood without flood insurance never open back up. In today's video, we're going to show you as a business owner how to prevent this from ever happening to your business and to stop your business from closing in Savannah, Georgia. Let's get started. But before we do, remember, share, subscribe, and like the channel. Hi, I'm Chris, the flood insurance guru. And more than 12 years ago, I bought a house in a flood zone like this right here, and I own a business. And I was told premiums were gonna be $3,000 when they should have been $300. Flood insurance was gonna be unaffordable for me. And I wasn't even gonna have the right flood coverage. So today I'm showing you as a business owner in Savannah, Georgia, how to solve this problem. Today we're gonna talk about things like flood zones. We're gonna talk about flood risk. We're gonna talk about your flood insurance options in Savannah, Georgia. And we're even gonna talk a little bit about flood insurance pricing in Savannah, Georgia. So let's talk about flood zones in Savannah, Georgia. As a business owner, what flood zones are in Savannah, Georgia? Well, we need to talk about what's called special flood hazard areas first. These are also required areas. If you have a mortgage or a lien on your business where someone owns the building, you're maybe financing it from, special flood risk areas. We're talking about flood zone A, flood zone AE, and even flood zone B if you're near the coast, somewhere like Tybee Island, Georgia, maybe even down towards Jekyll Island, even over on the South Carolina coast. These are in areas where flood insurance is going to be required. And if you have a loan, the amount they could require is up to $500,000 on your building. Now let's talk about non-special flood hazard areas, flood zone X. These are areas where flood insurance typically is not required by mortgage companies or commercial bankers in Savannah, Georgia. However, about 30% of claims still come out of these areas. In fact, during Tropical Storm Debbie, statistics have shown more than 75% of the flood damage occurred in low-risk areas. So having flood insurance in these low-risk areas as a business owner is still very important. So we talk about flood zones. Now let's talk a little bit about flood risk. What is your risk? What is the actual risk of your business flooding? So many people get this mixed up with a flood zone. While a flood zone is really used from a regulatory standpoint, a flood risk score can actually tell you, hey, what are the actual chances of my business flooding over a 30-year period from 0 to 100? You can click in the description of this video and get that flood risk score in less than 5 minutes. It's going to tell you how close to water you are. It's going to even tell you your estimated flood insurance premiums. It's going to tell you what flood zone you're in, all this different information. Then you can even take the steps to get a flood insurance quote in less than 5 minutes if you want. So we've talked about flood risk score, we've talked about flood zones. Let's talk a little bit about flood insurance options for your business in Savannah, Georgia. There's really two options available. You've got the National Flood Insurance Program and you've got private flood insurance in Savannah, Georgia. Now, no matter where you go, the rates with the National Flood Insurance Program should be the same unless you're buying someone's business building and you're taking over their policy, which is called a policy assumption. This might give you a better rate if it's available. Now on the private flood insurance side, it could be really different, especially post Tropical Storm Debbie, as a lot of companies probably put a pause on writing new policies. They might even be non-renewing policies. It's very important that you understand that on flood insurance, you should be working with a flood insurance agent that gives you access to right at 5 different flood insurance options in Savannah, Georgia. So if a few decide to move out or stop writing business, you can kind of move this thing around. Now, when it comes to coverages, the National Flood Insurance Program offers $500,000 on your building, and they offer you $500,000 on that business inventory or business contents coverage. That's the max coverage available. On private, you might be able to get into millions of coverage. In fact, we recently helped someone in the area do a $28 million business flood insurance policy for a hotel. So yes, it is available. So you can get much more coverage with private in many situations in Savannah. However, one of the coverages is available on private that's not available on the National Flood Insurance Program is going to be loss of use, loss of rent. In the beginning of this video, we talked about imagine waking up and your business is literally underwater. How are you going to keep paying the bills? How are you going to keep paying those salaries while your business is recovering? This is where loss of use or loss of rent could kick in and give you up to 12 months sometimes of coverage here. Imagine recovering from a flood. being able to keep that staff, being able to keep paying them and paying the other bills that normally you would not have. It's a vital coverage, and it's one of the number one coverages we see businesses in Savannah, Georgia leave off their flood insurance policy. So we've talked about flood insurance options. We've talked about flood zones and flood risk score. We've talked about flood insurance coverages. What is the average cost of flood insurance for your business in Savannah, Georgia? Residential and commercial is a little different. On average, in the Savannah, Georgia area, we typically see most business owners paying in the range of $1,500 to about $2,000 a year. And this is typically for about $500,000 on the building and about $500,000 on that business inventory or business contents coverage. Some of the other questions we get asked is, can I finance my premiums for my business in Savannah, Georgia? If you're dealing with a private company, you may be able to do premium finance. So what exactly is this? Well, let's talk a little bit about it. What this means is usually do a down payment of about 25%. They take the rest of your premiums and they send it through a finance company. And you can click on the corner here to learn more about premium financing on your flood insurance. But usually they charge a pretty high interest rate, maybe 10 to 15%. And then you pay a monthly payment with that interest included. So the fees could add up if you're not careful, but it might be the right fit for your business. I personally premium financed an insurance policy a few years ago that was extremely high that I had to have for my business. So I know how premium financing a business can work and the things you have to go through. So if you're looking for flood insurance for your business in Savannah, Georgia, what are some of the best companies to look at? Look, there's a lot of national brokerages you can look at. You could look at State Farm Insurance. You could look at Allstate Insurance. Typically State Farm can go through the National Flood Insurance Program directly. Could be a benefit come claims time. Allstate may have access to private companies as well. Then you may want to look at some other flood insurance brokerages outside of the flood insurance group, like betterflood.com. Also called Flood Nerds, Flood Simple, Flood Price, even GeorgiaFloodInsurance.org. All these companies could probably provide you some valuable information on setting a business policy up. But you're here, why not go ahead and take the steps of looking at that business flood insurance now? It's actually something we specialize in for Savannah, Georgia business owners. And you can do it by going in the description of this video and just submitting a form. And it's 3 simple steps. Fill out the form, review the options, finalize your policy, protect your business. So if you're a business owner in Savannah, Georgia, you want to make sure you're protected at the end of the day. I'm Chris, the Flood Insurance Guru, and I want to say thank you for watching today's video on flood insurance for business owners in Savannah, Georgia. If you want to learn more, click up here in the corner on our playlist for flood insurance for Savannah, Georgia residents. I look forward to speaking to you in our next video. And remember, everybody's in a flood zone.